The Six Nations isn't about individual brilliance, but sometimes one man can make the difference.
Grand Slam at stage!
From a hat-trick in Parisse to a woman who shattered every record. These are the greatest individual Six Nations performances ever. We begin in the modern era with a display of total rugby that stunned the world. Twickenham 2023. It has always been a fortress and a place where French ambition went to die. But one man decided to turn Twickenham into a massacre. Antoine Dupont didn't score the tries, but his presence and assists were off the charts. He ran support lines and stunned the Roses with his flawless tactical kicking. And the final score read 53-10, a record loss for England. Dupont owned every blade of grass on English soil, but 5 years earlier, one man dominated the entire tournament. Rewind to 2018 and the rise of an Irish giant. Jacob Stockdale entered the tournament with a lot of promise.
I wasn't expecting it maybe, about 8 weeks ago if you told me that it was going to happen. So yeah, not many guys get to do it, and to be able to kind of do it my first one is it's really exciting.
But he left as a record breaker. Before then, no player had ever crossed the whitewash 7 times in a campaign. Until the Irish unleashed Stockdale. He was unstoppable, scoring against Italy, Wales and Scotland. But his defining moment came on St. Patrick's Day at Twickenham. With the Grand Slam on the line, Stockdale read the play before it happened. He chased his own chip kick, extending his large frame to touchdown just before the dead ball line.
The ambition of Ireland, and once again they're looking for a try on the cusp of half-time, and Stockdale going for it, and he may well have got it.
That try didn't just secure a record, it sealed the Grand Slam, immortalising his 2018 campaign as the gold standard for finishers. So what about the women's game? Despite every record set by the men, one woman currently sits at the top of the mountain, and it doesn't seem like anyone could dethrone the Queen. It's 2024, and a new English star makes her mark.
Henson, now to Cleall, who scored again in this.
She was running them in for fun, scoring a hat-trick against Ireland. She didn't just break the try-scoring record, she shattered it, crossing the line 9 times. Every time she touched the ball, the air in the stadium changed, an anticipation that something spectacular was about to happen. Breaking the previous record of 8 was a statement, cementing her campaign as a display of sustained brilliance that the women's game had rarely witnessed. Her performance would earn her the 2024 Women's Player of the Year. It was a magical season, but 2 years earlier, a small Italian showed that a single flash of magic is all you need. For more than a decade, Italy struggled to win a single game in the Six Nations. They tried everything, and when they met Wales at Cardiff, everyone expected a Welsh win. But late in the game, the Italian magician struck. Fielding the ball in his own half, the diminutive fullback spotted a gap that didn't exist to the naked eye. He accelerated. The magic step he put on the Welsh defender was so sharp it almost defied physics, leaving the opposition grasping at air. His selfless pass to Edoardo Padovani for the winner was the final brushstroke. In 30 seconds of brilliance, Capozzo single-handedly ended years of Italian heartbreak, proving that size means nothing in the face of pure audacity. The weight of this moment isn't just about it being the try of the tournament. It ended a drought that was crushing a nation. It was the ultimate maverick moment. But in Scotland, another magician almost did the unthinkable. Twickenham 2019. Scotland was dead and buried, trailing England 31-0. Most players would have folded. Finn Russell, however, is not most players. After reportedly arguing with his coach at halftime, Russell returned to the pitch and turned the game into his own personal playground. He threw passes that shouldn't have been possible, finding space in a defence that had been ironclad just minutes before. He unlocked the English line time and again, dragging Scotland back from the abyss to a 38-38 draw, the greatest comeback in tournament history. It was reckless, it was genius, and it was the definition of a virtuoso performance. And speaking of one-man show, the Irish had their own little maestro. Before the Mavericks of today, there was a young man in Paris who changed the perception of his nation forever. The year was 2000. Ireland had not won in Paris for 28 years. They were the underdogs, facing a formidable French side. Enter a 21-year-old Brian O'Driscoll. In 80 minutes, he went from a promising youngster to a global superstar. O'Driscoll scored 3 times. Each try was a mix of pace, power, and an unyielding will to win. The hat trick in Paris wasn't just a great performance, it was a changing of the guard. It announced to the world that Ireland was no longer there to make up the numbers. It is widely considered the birth of modern Irish rugby dominance, all sparked by one young centre who refused to be intimidated. But 3 years later, the old rival England found their own little superstar. Dublin, 2003, a Grand Slam decider at Lansdowne Road. The pressure was suffocating, but Johnny Wilkinson was immune to pressure. In a game where every mistake could be fatal, Wilkinson played with the cold precision of a machine. He was unplayable. He controlled the territory, he made his tackles, and he punished every Irish in discipline. He scored 15 points that day, but the crowning moment was a drop goal struck off his weak right foot.
Extends England's lead and an immediate riposte to the Ireland.
It was a psychological blow that broke the Irish spirit. This was the perfect individual performance, a Grand Slam masterclass that paved the way for England's World Cup glory later that year. Now, 2 years later, a Welsh legend followed in his spotlight. Cardiff, 2005. Wales hadn't won a Grand Slam in 27 years. They needed a hero, and they found one in Gavin Henson. With his silver boots and spiked hair, he looked the part. But against England, he played it too. The moment that defined the match wasn't a score, but a tackle. Henson manhandled English debutant Matthew Tate, picking him up and driving him back in a display of raw dominance that ignited the crowd. Then came the kick. A monster 44-metre penalty to win the game. He struck it with an arrogance that belied the difficulty, sparking a frenzy in Wales. It was a performance of pure individual charisma and clutch execution that kick-started a golden era for Welsh rugby. But Henson was playing for a team on the rise. In Italy, one man had to resurrect a nation. Sergio Parisse is arguably the greatest player to never win the tournament, and against France, he showed why. This was the definitive captain's knock. Sergio was everywhere. He was the first carrier, the first tackler, and the emotional engine of the Italian side. He didn't just do the hard work, he provided the finesse, even setting up a drop goal.
That was stretched to 13-5.
He willed Italy to a historic victory over its big brothers, France.
And the scenes that greeted Nigel Owen's final whistle gave an indication.
In a team of underdogs, Parisse was a giant, proving that a single player's sheer will can bridge the gap between tiers. Unfortunately, a decade earlier, Wilkinson would silence the Italians at Twickenham. We return to the English fly half factory and back to Johnny Wilkinson, who holds a place in history for sheer ruthlessness. Twickenham, 2001. Against Italy, Wilkinson decided that winning wasn't enough. He wanted perfection. In an 80-23 demolition, he produced the most statistically dominant individual performance the tournament has ever seen. 1 try, 9 conversions, 4 penalties, 35 points in a single match. It remains the record for most points by an individual in a Six Nations game. It wasn't flashy, it was a methodical, relentless accumulation of points that left the opposition demoralised. It was the gold standard of fly-half efficiency. Dominance in the number 10 jersey is expected, but in the women's game, the centre of the field belongs to one name. The 2020 women's tournament belonged to Emily Scarratt. Already a World Cup winner, Scarratt elevated her game to a level that was simply untouchable. She wasn't just a centre, she was the team's heartbeat. She kicked goals with laser precision, but she was also a devastating ball carrier. Scarratt scored key tries, controlled the midfield distribution, and became England's all-time top point scorer during this very campaign. Her performance throughout the tournament solidified her status as perhaps the greatest centre the women's game has ever seen, a point-scoring machine with no equal. So, from the midfield to a man who finished the job on the wing, The 2019 tournament for Wales was built on defence, but it needed a spark. Josh Adams provided the fire. In a Grand Slam year, you need a finisher who converts half chances into gold, and Adams was that man. He only scored 3 tries, but it was his aerial prowess and his crucial score against England that defined his campaign. He chased kicks with the hunger of a desperate man, capitalising on every bounce of the ball. It was a finisher's masterclass, driving Wales to the title through sheer predatory instinct. He almost won Player of the Tournament, but big man Jones would walk away with it. But speed isn't always used for finishing. Sometimes it helps when you need it the most. 2013. Stuart Hogg was young, brash, and incredibly fast. Against Italy, he produced a moment that captured his electrifying potential. Standing on his own try line, the Scottish fullback read the Italian attack and intercepted the pass. What followed was a foot race that was over before it began. Hogg ran the entire length of the field, leaving defenders trailing in his wake. It was a showcase of the blistering pace that would eventually see him named Player of the Tournament twice in his career. A try from nothing, born of speed and confidence. And 10 years later, another English flyer would try to one-up the Scottish talisman. Twickenham, 2023, England women versus France. The Red Roses were pinned in their own 22 under immense pressure. Logic dictated a clearance kick. Instead, they ran.
Here comes Roland, stretching the legs, not long back from injury. How much gas has she got?
The ball moved through 6 pairs of hands before finding Abby Dow. But there was still work to do. Dow received the ball and activated the afterburners. She sprinted almost 50 metres, rounding the French defence with a combination of balance and raw speed to score in the corner. Even the commentators were shocked. But this was a lot of team play. One performance often forgotten is Wesley Fofana. Finally, we have another French moment that isn't DuPont. It's 2013 and France arrive at Twickenham for a massive fight, but Fofana decides to turn the English inside out. Receiving the ball 70 metres from the line, Fofana didn't just outrun the defence, he danced through it. He beat 5 English defenders. He stepped, he fended, he accelerated, all while maintaining a balance that seemed impossible. It was poetry in motion. Scoring at the home of the enemy with such style made it all the sweeter. It remains one of the greatest solo tries ever scored, the very definition of French flair. But from the Frenchmen to the French women, France's ability to produce players who can do it all is not limited to the men's game. In the 2018 women's tournament, Jessie Trémoulière was a force of nature. Playing fullback, she was the rock upon which France built their Grand Slam. But she was more than a last line of defence. Trémoulière was the team's primary playmaker and goal kicker. She scored crucial tries, broke lines at will, and slotted penalties from all over the park. Her influence was so profound that she was voted World Rugby Player of the Decade, largely based on this tournament performance alone. And the French talent factory just gave us more when she left. France's conveyor belt of talent continued into the next decade with a scrum half who rewrote the rulebook. The 2022 tournament saw Laure Sansus operate on a different frequency. Usually scrum halves are the providers, but Sansus decided to be the executioner. She was the scrum half general, but with a striker's instinct. Sansus scored 6 tries, the most in the tournament, sniping around the fringes and supporting breaks with uncanny anticipation. It is a rare instance of a number 9 dominating the try-scoring charts so comprehensively, proving that the greatest threat is the one closest to the ball. But across the channel, England was evolving too. Finally, one of the big men, or should I say women, finally gets a mention. The 2021 tournament was the stage for Poppy Cleall. In a game often defined by speed, Cleall brought the power game. Named player of the championship, she redefined the role of the number 8. She was relentless. Her ball carrying was violent, constantly getting over the gain line, but she combined it with soft hands and offloading ability that kept the defence guessing. She represented the physical evolution of the women's pack, a battering ram with the skills of a back. But just as her physicality wore teams down, it proved the difference in Paris. 2018, Ireland versus France. The clock had gone red. Ireland needed 2 points to stay alive in the tournament. They went through 41 phases of grueling possession, inching forward. Then, Johnny Sexton demanded the ball. From 45 metres out in the swirling wind, he dropped for goal. As the ball sailed through the uprights, he turned away, arms raised. Le drop goal was one of the single most clutch moments in Six Nations history. It was the act of a man who refused to lose, kick-starting Ireland's Grand Slam run. But clutch moments don't always come from the boot. Sometimes it comes from skill. Cardiff 2010. Wales were trailing Scotland with minutes remaining. They looked beaten, but Shane Williams, the little magician, had one trick left. Deep in the final minute, Wales attacked.
Sides. Good. Bradley Davis infield. They're all there for Wales. Shane Williams! And Shane Williams has won.
Williams found the ball in his hands. He ducked under a tackle that would have stopped a larger man, spun and dived over for the winner. The stadium erupted. It was the miracle comeback, and it was fitting that the tournament's all-time leading try scorer provided his finest escape act when all hope seemed lost. A year earlier, another Welsh miracle was denied by an Irish boot. The stakes could not have been higher at Cardiff. Ireland had not won a Grand Slam in 61 years. The game hung in the balance.
Drop the goal! Grand Slam at stake! He's got it! Yes!
With minutes left on the clock, Ronan O'Gara fell back into the pocket. He had missed kicks earlier in the game, but champions have short memories. O'Gara struck the drop goal that gave Ireland the lead. The tension in those final minutes was unbearable, but O'Gara's swing of the boot had secured history. It wasn't the longest kick, nor the prettiest, but it carried the weight of a nation's history. While O'Gara was calculated, some French performances are born of pure chaos. We head to Edinburgh in 2018. Teddy Thomas is a player who can frustrate and delight in equal measure. Against Scotland, he chose delight. The French winger scored a brace of brilliance.
And Teddy Thomas away once again, and Thomas doing it once more. Teddy Thomas, deja vu at Murrayfield, and the chase, and 3 Frenchmen chasing it down. Laidlaw on it, bounces for Teddy Thomas, sits up for the...
Both tries were solo efforts from nothing. He showcased incredible speed, stepping defenders as if they were statues. France eventually lost the game, but Thomas's individual performance was a perfect 10. It was a reminder that raw individual talent, even in a losing cause, can be the most captivating thing on a pitch. But a year earlier, one forward put on a show. Forwards, too, can have days where they seem to be playing a different sport. A hat-trick is a rare feat for a winger. For a back-row forward, it is almost unheard of. Yet, against Italy, Ireland's CJ Stander decided he wanted the match ball.
His deceptive pace got him over for his 3rd try of the game.
This was the forward hat-trick. Stander powered over for 3 tries, using his low centre of gravity and explosive power to blast through the Italian defence. It was a dominant display of ball carrying that laid the platform for a comprehensive win, showcasing the modern loose forward as a primary scoring weapon. But sometimes the context of the tournament creates a hero. 2015, Super Saturday, England needed to beat France by a massive margin to snatch the title from Ireland. They needed points, and they needed them fast. George Ford stepped up to orchestrate the chaos. In the 55-35 shootout, Ford was magnificent. He didn't just manage the game, he ignited it. He attacked the line, threw flat passes, and kept the tempo at a breakneck speed that France couldn't handle. It was the most exciting attacking fly-half performance of the decade, a breathless display of offensive rugby. And finally, we look at the most recent explosion of speed. If the previous decades were defined by size and power, the 2025 tournament belonged to a man who proved that nothing is more dangerous than raw pace. Louis Biel-Biarri arrived not just as a prospect, but as a phenomenon. Distinguishable by his signature red scrum cap, he became a blur of motion that defences simply could not track. It wasn't just the number of tries he scored, it was the manner in which he scored them. He turned half chances into certainties, chasing down lost causes and turning the tightest corridors of space into open highways. Throughout the championship, he played with a terrifying freedom, cutting lines that left veteran defenders grasping at shadows. In a modern game often suffocated by structure, Biel-Biarri was the chaos, a player who moved faster than the tactical systems designed to stop him. His 2025 campaign wasn't just a great individual performance, it was a declaration that the future of French rugby is not just bright, it is electric, and it is wearing a red scrum cap. And he'd dethroned Stockdale, scoring 8 tries for the new modern record. These were some of the most incredible moments of individual brilliance, but sometimes the Six Nations can break your heart. Make sure to check out the most heartbreaking moments next, and see you in the next one.